Hi everyone, John here with Fountain Pen Love, and today I want to do just a quick tutorial on how to photograph your fountain pen and make it look something like this. Now typically when you go to photograph a fountain pen up close, you're going to end up with something that looks a little bit more like this or like this, where the tip of the nib is out of focus and the barrel is out of focus. But if you go back to this particular image, you'll see that everything from the tip of the nib all the way through to the engraving, through to the ink windows on the barrel are all in focus. So how is this done? Well, it starts off with a series of images. So I'm going to get rid of this one here. And you can see here I have 11 different images, and if I quickly scroll through them, you see this one I started with the focus here at the very tip of the nib. I slowly worked my way down to the engraving on the nib. And then I start getting down here more into the threads and finally to the barrel, so that I have, over the series of images, everything is in focus at any given point, but it's not all in the same image. Now this is important because what we're going to do is a technique called focus stacking. And that's where we take all of these images, run them through some software, and it takes from each image the part that's the most in focus, combines those, and makes one final composite image where all of these different sections and bits of the different images are combined into one so that everything is in focus in the same image. So what I've already done, I've exported all of these. You'll want to make sure when you have your series of images, you've edited them. They all are the same exposure. They all have the same settings so that they look the same. So when they're combined, you don't have these weird dark and light spots. So all of these have been edited, exported, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to open up a program called Affinity Photo, which I have right here. Other programs will do this as well. You can use Photoshop. You can use a couple others that are made specifically for focus stacking. I have Affinity Photo, and so that's what I use. To do the focus stacking, you will just go up here to File. You'll do Focus Merge. So if you do stack, that's not the same thing. So in here it's called Focus Merge. Click on that, and you will go ahead, get this dialog box that pops up and say Add. When you add photos, I already have this series of images exported, as I said, so I'm going to go ahead and select all of these, all 11. You can see, just to verify, that we have 11 images in here, and you can see the little thumbnails just to make sure that they're the same ones that you do want to go ahead and stack. If those are correct, go ahead and hit OK. And it's going to go ahead and do its thing here. So you'll see a lot of interesting things happen here. It's aligning and merging everything right now. You're going to start seeing some black and white stuff happening, which is where it's checking for areas of contrast, which is basically which parts are in focus and which parts are not in focus. One thing I will say, the bigger the files you use, the longer this is going to take. So definitely, you'll want to export all your files at least as large as you plan to use them. So if you plan to put them online at say 2000 pixels, you need to have them at least be 2000 pixels for each image. You can go bigger if you want to. It will take you longer, but if you have a powerful computer or time to wait, not a big deal. You can always downsize if you want to. So if anything, make the final image bigger than you'll think you'll need it. You can always resize it when you export. One other thing I do like to recommend is save the cropping until you're done so that you have enough image to work with. You can see now this is done. It has a final image completed. So it's taken all those different images, those 11 that we had before, stacked them into this single image, and you can see here the very tip of the nib is in focus. All of the scroll work and everything on the nib is in focus. These threads are in focus. The ink windows in the barrel are in focus. So we have one image composed of 11 different individual images, just a piece of each one, and everything is now in focus. If this was going to be my final image, I'd go ahead and clean up some little dust spots. I would go ahead and crop it some, But let's say I was happy with this. This is where I want it to be. What I would do from here is go ahead and just export it. And I had already done that, have that image sitting back here in Lightroom. And it's in this stack here. And after a little cropping, this is what I ended up with, which you can see is pretty much the exact same thing that came out of Affinity here. I just did these on separate occasions. So you can see it is super easy, really no work involved at all. The hardest part is going through and just taking each individual photo, slightly shifting the focus every single time. What I would recommend when you go to do your series of photos is have overlap. So in this one, I made sure that the tip of the nib was my primary point that's in focus, but you can see it's actually in focus down into this silver part here. The next image, the tip is already out of focus, but all of this silver is in focus down to maybe the breather hole. The next image, we start to lose a bit of focus here, but I start to get more focus. And so there's, as you can see, I'm not going to go through every image. There is just enough overlap in each image on the front and back side that's in focus. When the software goes to combine these images, I don't have hard borders where I might have missed a little bit of focus. So that's why it might take 11 images, 15 images. It might take quite a few images depending on what you're photographing. But you definitely want to leave the software, oops, that's that image. Leave the software enough image to work with and enough focus to work with so that you have some overlap and you don't have any weird spots in the middle that are not in focus. So I hope that made sense. Please, if you have any questions about focus stacking in general, the photography techniques, the post-processing techniques, there's lots of information online. I really, in this video, my intent was to just give you a quick overview of how simple it is to do once you have the images already taken. The software makes it extremely easy. So if you've ever been frustrated with fountain pen nib photos that look like this, where big parts of the image are out of focus, focus stacking can give you something that looks like this, where everything is in focus. So have fun, happy writing, and good luck.